Rear naked choke. The rear naked choke is one of the most effective submissions in grappling. The rear naked choke is applied from behind your opponent by wrapping one arm around their neck while locking it in place with your other arm. Instead of crushing the windpipe, it compresses the carotid arteries on both sides of the neck, reducing blood flow to the brain and forcing a quick submission when applied correctly. Because you already have your opponent's back, it is extremely difficult for them to defend without first escaping the position. A proper rear naked choke also depends on chest-to-back control, keeping your opponent from turning into you while maintaining pressure throughout the finish. This submission is widely used in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, mixed martial arts, and submission grappling because it requires very little strength when performed with proper technique. Many high-level competitors consider taking the back to be the strongest position in grappling specifically because it creates opportunities for the rear naked choke. Since it attacks blood flow rather than relying on pain, it remains effective regardless of how tough or physically strong the opponent may be. Guillotine choke. The guillotine choke is one of the most common front headlock submissions in grappling. The guillotine choke is usually applied when an opponent shoots for a takedown or lowers their head too far during an exchange. By wrapping the neck under your arm and locking your hands together, you apply upward pressure while controlling their posture. It can be finished standing, from guard, or from mount, making it one of the most versatile chokes in combat sports. Timing is often more important than strength because catching the neck before your opponent improves their position makes escaping much more difficult. There are also several variations, including the high elbow guillotine and arm guillotine, each creating slightly different pressure. It is frequently seen in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and mixed martial arts because it instantly punishes poor takedown attempts. For that reason, wrestlers and MMA fighters must always protect their neck when changing levels. Triangle choke. The triangle choke is a signature submission that uses the legs instead of the arms. The triangle choke traps your opponent's neck in one arm between your thighs before locking your legs together in a figure four position. By squeezing your legs while pulling the opponent's head downward, blood flow through the neck is restricted until they are forced to submit. Because the legs are much stronger than the arms, the choke becomes extremely powerful once everything is locked into place. Although it is most commonly performed from the guard position, skilled grapplers can attack the triangle from mount, back takes, or even standing transitions. Success depends heavily on controlling posture, cutting the correct angle, and tightening the lock before applying pressure. The triangle perfectly demonstrates one of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu's biggest principles, using leverage and positioning instead of strength to overcome a larger opponent. Armbar. The armbar is one of the first submissions most grapplers learn because it teaches the importance of leverage. The armbar isolates one of your opponent's arms while your hips apply force against the elbow joint, extending it beyond its normal range of motion. Rather than relying on arm strength, the technique uses your entire body to attack a single joint. Controlling the opponent's thumb direction, keeping your knees tight, and lifting your hips together are what make the submission effective. Arm bars can be performed from guard, mount, side control, knee on belly, or even while standing in advanced situations. Since the elbow naturally bends in only one direction, proper mechanics make escaping very difficult once control has been established. Because of its versatility and reliability, the armbar remains one of the highest percentage submissions across Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Judo, and mixed martial arts. Kimura lock. The Kimura lock is a powerful shoulder submission that attacks through rotational pressure. The Kimura lock begins by controlling your opponent's wrist while grabbing your own wrist to create a strong figure four grip. Rotating the arm behind the opponent's back places increasing pressure on the shoulder joint until they are forced to submit. However, the Kimura is much more than just a submission. Many experienced grapplers use it as a control position to prevent escapes, create sweeps, or transition into other dominant positions. Because it controls the entire upper body, simply threatening a Kimura often forces an opponent to react, creating opportunities for completely different attacks. Americana lock. The Americana is another shoulder lock, but it attacks the joint in the opposite direction of the Kimura. The Americana is usually applied from mount or side control after pinning your opponent's wrist firmly against the mat. By carefully lifting the elbow while keeping the wrist controlled, pressure builds inside the shoulder joint until the opponent submits. Unlike explosive submissions, the Americana rewards patience and proper positioning. If your opponent is able to straighten their arm or reconnect their hands, the opportunity usually disappears. This is why experienced grapplers establish complete control before attempting the finish. Although it is commonly taught to beginners, it remains an effective submission at every level because good top control naturally creates opportunities to isolate an opponent's arm. It also teaches one of the most important lessons in grappling: position comes before submission. Heel hook. The heel hook is one of the most dangerous submissions in modern grappling. The heel hook works by controlling your opponent's foot and rotating the heel, creating twisting pressure that travels directly into the knee. Unlike many submissions that become painful before causing damage, a heel hook can injure the ligaments of the knee very quickly, which is why it demands careful training and immediate respect from both athletes. Because the damage happens internally, an opponent may not realize the danger until it's too late. Proper control of the hips and legs is just as important as controlling the foot, since preventing your opponent from rotating is what allows the submission to work. Heel hooks have become increasingly popular in no-GI Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and submission grappling, where leg attacks are now a major part of high-level competition. Due to their effectiveness and injury risk, many organizations restrict heel hooks for beginners, allowing them only in advanced divisions where competitors have the experience to recognize the danger. Ankle lock. The ankle lock is one of the most fundamental leg submissions in grappling. The ankle lock traps your opponent's foot underneath your arm while your forearm presses firmly against the Achilles tendon. By controlling the leg and extending your hips, you create tremendous pressure that forces your opponent to submit. Although it is often one of the first leg locks beginners learn, it remains highly effective even at the highest levels of competition when performed correctly. Good ankle locks depend on proper positioning rather than raw strength. If your hips are too far away or your grip is loose, much of the pressure is lost. The ankle lock is widely used in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Sambo, and submission grappling because it is simple, reliable, and teaches the mechanics behind more advanced leg attacks. Mastering the ankle lock also builds a strong understanding of leg control before progressing to submissions like the heel hook. And now, you have gained new knowledge. This knowledge can go a long way, but always make sure to at least practice what is learned to get the upper hand. So, if you want to be the best in the room, make sure to subscribe. And if you don't, Dagestan could definitely use an extra person to help clean the toilets. Wish you well.